Welcome to Optily Radio, your regular 30-minute dose of everything you need to accelerate your e-commerce marketing success.
Welcome to another episode of Optily Radio. I'm your host, Nina White. We've got Shopify back on the menu today. We've previously had Shopify agency founder and fellow e-commerce podcaster Kelly Vaughn on the show to take us through what this platform has to offer. My big takeaway from our chat was the ease with which you can get up and running. Kelly mentioned that it could take maybe 2 hours if you're prepared with all your assets. Today, we'll be revisiting Shopify, exploring marketing techniques, how advertising has evolved in the past year and a half, and where online retailers should be at this stage in preparation for the holiday season, with another agency founder and podcaster. So, let's dive right into today's episode. Today in the virtual studio, we have Chase Clymer joining us. Chase is the co-founder of Electric Eye, a fully remote e-commerce agency that works with Shopify stores on design, development, and marketing to help them scale. He's also a fellow podcaster hosting Honest E-commerce, a weekly show that helps online retailers grow their sales with actionable advice. And if you tuned into the show before, you'll already be familiar with Brendan Hughes. Brendan is our CEO here at Optily and has decades of experience on both the ad buying and ad selling sides of the business. He's recently been featured on Chase's own podcast, so make sure to keep an eye out for that release soon as well. So, welcome to the show, Chase and Brendan.
Thanks for having me.
Hey Chase, good chatting again.
Absolutely. It's becoming a weekly occurrence at this point.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Podcasting all around. So I have to say, go Bucks to you, Chase, as a fellow Ohioan. How are things in the cornfields of Central Ohio these days?
Well, the Buckeyes are interesting this year, but other than that, Ohio is great, except today it's really gloomy and fun, and anyone that's from the Midwest knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, hopefully the sun comes out soon for you guys. So do you want to tell us a bit about yourself, how it is you got into the world of marketing and Shopify, and how you came to start Electric Eye?
Yeah, I'll dive right in there. So by accident, like most people that get into, consulting or agency work or whatever. So I was in a punk rock band once upon a time, and that did not pay the bills. So I was freelancing the whole time I was on tour. I was doing like magazine layouts. I was doing a lot of photography back then too. And then I started doing like magazine layouts. I started doing web design. I started learning advertising, started learning strategy. And then I got kind of hooked on the strategy element of things. So whole time I was in the band, I was like learning all that stuff. Eventually I realized that, we weren't the next, Motley Crue or whatever, and kind of hung up the hat. And then I was, I already had a stable kind of client base at that point because I had been freelancing forever. I don't know, ever since I can remember. So I kind of just went all in on digital, and I was kind of a generalist back then. And when I was in the band, actually, I met my business partner now, Sean. Me and him did all the album artwork for my band together. So that's how we met. And so when he left his old company and started freelancing, he was making every mistake known to man. So I was helping him not make those mistakes. And just through that, he was like, well, I'm doing like this project for so-and-so on Shopify. Like, do you want to come in and help out with kind of the advertising side of things? I know you know what you're doing over there. So that's actually how I learned about Shopify, was through him. And as I kind of got into Shopify and started realizing like, it just works, and like you can't really break the payment element of it, which was always my fear with WordPress. I was like, this is kind of cool. So started to kind of play more in that space. And then 6 months after that, we had an agency and we were at Shopify Unite and we were partners, and, the rest is history.
Awesome. That sounds super exciting.
Can we talk about punk rock for the whole podcast and just park the Shopify stuff?
Yeah, I wish. But no, we got to be educational. And look, if you are interested with what band it was, you can Google my name and find it, but I will not give you the answer.
Okay, we might play some snippets before the end of the podcast. We'll have it coming through. Can I stop you there, Chase? Just because I think you've touched on something that we get asked a lot, right? So obviously we're more on the advertising side, and we will support customers whether it's on Shopify or WooCommerce or BigCommerce or Magento. But the team internally love Shopify, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we see a Shopify client coming, we're going, yeah, this is great. And you said, look, so do you deal with WooCommerce? Do you tell people WooCommerce, look, it's just not our what's your thought process on Shopify versus WooCommerce, and do you try and steer people, to Shopify and away from WooCommerce?
All right, so the short answer is I'm a Shopify fanboy through and through. But the long answer is, look, there's a reason that every tool exists out there, and I'm not going to be the guy that's like, you have to use this particular thing to solve your particular problem. Oftentimes people are on different solutions when they start talking to us, and it's my job to educate them. And most importantly, it's migrating from WooCommerce to Shopify, or from Magento to Shopify, or Squarespace to Shopify. It doesn't matter. Migrating from one platform to Shopify isn't going to do anything for your business. Like, what is the actual issue? What's the strategy behind solving that issue? Perhaps a migration is part of solving an underlying issue, but if everything looks the same, everything performs the same, it's the same exact customer journey, it doesn't matter what platform you're on, it's going to do exactly what it does. No, like, I'm not going to force you to move over to Squarespace or move over from WooCommerce or Magento. But if you want to work with us, that has to happen because we only work on that platform. All of our development, everything we do is only in that ecosystem. We are really, really good at Shopify and the things that integrate with it, and we have no clue about anything else except just how to migrate people off them, because we've done it so many times. But I think one thing I do like to point out is, like, oftentimes people are like, Magento's the best because X, Y, and Z, or like WordPress is the best because of this. And oftentimes I've met people like this. It's the contractor's favorite platform, and it's all they know. Therefore, it's the best. And they're not willing to admit, like, these are all just tools. You know what I mean? Just like tools, nothing without a strategy. You got to focus on the strategy first.
Fair enough.
Great.
Yeah, so speaking of Shopify and your customers, what is your process for taking on a new customer? And what are some of the common red flags you might run into when onboarding maybe an underperforming D2C brand that you're hoping to get up to speed?
Yeah, I mean, red flags are just the fun part of growing an agency. Is you just learn how to deal with people and how to deal with clients and understand. Sometimes you might think something's a red flag and it's not really. It's just because it's a lack of education. Some people just don't know what they don't know, and you just have a conversation about it, and people will oftentimes surprise you. So our process is everybody starts with what we'll call a strategy sprint. So it's about a 2 to 3 week engagement where we're deep diving into the brand as a whole. So we're looking at the technology, we're looking at the apps, we're looking at the code base, we're looking at the strategy behind like getting new customers, behind email, paid ads. We're like deep diving in an effort to understand what's going on, because we don't have a clue what's going on. Like, that's the one thing that people oftentimes overlook. Like, they want a partner to come in and just hit the ground running and be able to do things. What are those things? Who knows? But do them. And it's like, okay, well, first we got to understand what's going on now. Like, especially if you're talking about development, like, you got to understand what the code base looks like, so you're not going to make any detrimental changes. If you're talking about marketing, you got to understand what was happening historically, what did work, what didn't work, and why. So you're not doing the same thing or wasting budget. Like, oftentimes, and this is usually most of our projects are starting this way, is they come to us and they're like, look, we just want more sales. And we're like, cool, let's talk about it. But then you kind of look at what's going on, and it's like, okay, we could like go into this paid advertising avenue here. We can invest a lot of money through acquisition, Google Shopping, what have you. I was like, or we need to fix your website because your website's actually underperforming. And if we fix these user experience issues and we focus on mobile, which is, I literally just looked at a client site earlier this morning. Hopefully there'll be a client. I looked at a prospect's website earlier this morning. And just the disparity between the mobile conversion and the desktop conversion was astounding. And I was like, well, there's your straight up $1 million opportunity. I was like, ignore everything else. Like that's what we should focus on. But the reason that matters is if you can increase your conversion rate, theoretically your ads will perform better because your conversion rate is now higher because you've fixed those user experience problems, which are reasons why people are abandoning your site. Another thing to focus on that we like to focus on kind of during that first part of everything is also average order value. That's like probably the most underutilized lever in all of e-commerce is people don't really understand the power of upsells and cross-sells and bundling. And if you can get that thing up, that just increases your return on ad spend. So everyone thinks like return on ad spend is super cool and it's like what they want to focus on. But we like to kind of take a step back and look at the whole picture. And kind of what I just rambled about there is our whole exact framework that we used at looking at these clients' company, which is called our brand scaling framework. So I already mentioned what we like to look at, but it's like conversion rate, average order value, and then sessions. And we use sessions because that's the KPI that Shopify likes to use in their back end because we are Shopify nerds.
Yeah, I was just in a Shopify community discussion earlier, and it was on someone was asking the question. I've just launched my website. Should I start spending money immediately on ads? Right. What's your take on that? Like, you know, what should be in place? What should somebody have happening on their site before they start spending money?
Well, before they even launch their site, they should probably do some customer research and see if people actually even want their product. I see a lot of entrepreneurs launch a website and then be like, no one's buying my product. And it's like, well, what's going on with your product? Is your product unique? Is your product like, did you ask the market if they want your product? Like, you can feel strongly about your product, but the market needs to feel strongly about your product. So what I'm kind of alluding to here is the whole concept of product market fit. And if your product, you could literally hire the best advertiser in the world. Like Brendan and myself, we'll get in there and we'll build you the best funnel with our combined 30 years of experience in advertising. But if your product sucks, it ain't going to do nothing. And that's something that people oftentimes overlook. Like, if great advertising can't sell a bad product, there's still a human on the other end of this thing, and they'll make the decision, that's not solving a problem for me. That's not something that appeals to me. That's not something that I want. So before you even build your website, before you spend $1 in paid ads, make sure that people want your product. Go and talk to people in the communities, Facebook groups, Reddit community, whatever. Like, hey, this is my idea for my product. Like, what's your thoughts on that? The best thing to actually do is go try to pre-sell your product before you even launch your website. Be like, yeah, that sounds great. Be like, would you buy it? Will you buy it right now? I'll give you a discount. And they'll, you know, if they are willing to put their money where their mouth is, hey, you might be onto something there. So you want to get these kind of, you know, product market fit indicators out of the way before you move into investing in paid ads, which is the biggest gamble in your business probably, is getting kind of the first round of paid ads under your belt and like starting to scale up from there. Because beyond just having that product market fit element, you don't have any data to back it up. So you're kind of just, unfortunately, at that moment in time, it's a very unfortunate shotgun approach to how paid ads start then, and you kind of just have to iterate upon the things that work, that you find out, the learnings from kind of that first getting started piece. You should definitely have a budget set aside when you're first getting into paid ads just for learning, like, and you're not going to see a return on that. And that is just the unfortunate truth of it, especially now with how expensive things are with iOS 14, iOS 15, all these changes that happened. You kind of need a learning budget. And I see a lot of agencies that are more upmarket, like, have a mandated learning budget with like the first engagements with their clients. You'll see that all over the board. I just went on a whole tirade. I don't know if you have any more questions for me about kind of where I was going.
Maybe the follow-on question from that is, you know, you're saying you've got that learning budget, right? So what are you doing? Like, where are you starting in the funnel? You know, let's not get into the whole funnel conversation because that's on your podcast. But somebody starting off, where are you telling them or suggesting that they invest up front?
Well, let's just take a step back from that. Why does somebody want to do paid ads? It's probably because they want to get more sales, right? So you can't get more sales without more customers. And if you're only worried about your return on ad spend, that's like not the right outlook here. First, you need to get more people exposed to your product. So that comes from kind of, more top of the funnel, more prospecting type ads. So this is trying to get your brand in front of new customers, right? This is like that area of the funnel is going to convert pretty terribly. But the goal of it isn't actually a conversion. You might get some, and that might be fantastic, but the goal is actually more to build awareness and get people kind of into the next step of the funnel, which is now remarketing, and doing that through various means. So obviously you can hit them again on the same platform, say it was Facebook and Instagram, but also like Klaviyo if you're doing emails, or like SMS as well. There are other ways to kind of remarket to people in the middle of the funnel. And then again, just kind of move them down the funnel into like whatever your internal metrics are as a company, of like warm traffic or hot traffic, whatever you want to call it. Some people, it's as simple as like an add to cart abandonment, or others are like, oh, they viewed this product page 10 times in the last 2 weeks. You can get a little more creative at the bottom of the funnel, but you as a company will kind of know those metrics as you start to get more and more advanced with your paid ad structures. But what I would do with the budget, at least 60% in the prospecting, just like a shot in the dark number, is like you are going to be spending a lot more at the top of the funnel to get people to move down. But as you move down the funnel, your return on ad spend goes up, actually. So all these numbers don't exist in a bubble. So you can, as a company, you can decide what success looks like for yourself and then work towards that number. But then also B, there are unscrupulous characters out there that will manipulate the numbers to do whatever they need them to say to make you happy, through, not spending to acquire new customers and just retargeting. If like you're like, we need to see a huge return on ad spend, or various other kind of not good partners. I don't know. Just there are bad people out there.
Awesome. So speaking of ads and then Shopify, what do you guys like to use for analytics and tracking? Do you tend to use sort of the built-in Shopify analytics, or do you generally build out something more detailed like a Google Data Studio dashboard or something similar?
We actually build out custom dashboards for all of our clients to take a look at everything. But we're pulling a lot of those numbers in from Google Analytics, from the various ad platforms, from Shopify itself, and kind of the other tech that we have involved in that. All of our clients that we are doing kind of paid advertising with are also doing Klaviyo as well. So there's a lot of cool metrics you can pull in from Klaviyo. A lot of them are using Klaviyo for SMS as well, which is an interesting one these days. But yeah, definitely going a little bit more custom. I will say though, you don't necessarily need a custom dashboard if until you're kind of like actually making some significant investments in paid media. It might sound cool, but it's like you don't really need it.
Cool. And so you mentioned dealing with a bunch of different channels, so SMS, I'm assuming your Facebook, Google, and all of that. So how do you deal with the ad management? I assume you have a pretty lean team. I don't know how big your team is exactly, but what is your method for, managing all of that and ad optimization, figuring out attribution and where to invest for your customers?
Absolutely. So we do have a pretty lean team, and we also have a very lean client base. Like we're only working with about a dozen clients at a time, and not all of them are utilizing all of our services. So we've got a marketing manager that handles a lot of the paid side of things. He's in there every day, making sure the client's stuff's up to date. He's also working hand in hand with them within our project management software to make sure that everybody's aware of like what's going on within their business, the client's business that is, and like making sure that we have the content to back up whatever the ad initiatives that we want to do. Then he's talking with whomever's running kind of retention or owned media to make sure that all the marketing messages are all going to be the same. And then through those custom dashboards at the end of the month, we're like breaking everything down for our clients. Usually in the form of a Loom video, we found is actually a pretty awesome way to do it. So we'll walk through their what's that? We'll walk through the dashboard and like point things out and like try to make it really easy to digest, because we found that clients weren't reading the reports. They would just ask us if things were good or not, and then we'd be like, this is what was good, this is what we want to work on, like here's some ideas for next month, and they're like, yeah, that's way better than this automated report that nobody wants.
Yeah, Loom's pretty cool. Chase, have you given up trying to solve the problem of attribution, and where's your head at with that, in terms of
my
single
head
source?
is, I know it's annoyance. Ryan's head, though, our marketing manager, is in the clouds. He is definitely thinking about it a lot, but I'm less in the day-to-day of running that side of the business, so it's less of a pain point for me. But I know that he's working with our reporting software, and he's got his kind of ear to the ground on everything that's happening. But everything's changing so much quicker than people are solving for those issues currently yet. So it's kind of we're like, unfortunately, in this like holding pattern to like, where's this going to settle? And then let's solve for it.
Yeah. And has like 2020 been a strange year, in particular with Facebook attribution, or have you ridden that wave and clients are happy that Facebook's maybe not as reliable as it was, or this, or it's not as clear as it was? So how's that been for you?
Facebook, in 2020, Facebook was wild.
Oh, sorry, 2021. 2021.
Sorry. Yeah, but now here into 2021, a lot of our clients they're definitely a little more mature, and they're okay with understanding that they know that when they make those investments into those channels, that sales go up, and they know that it isn't their freelancer or agency like us or contractor or anyone's fault that the data is kind of manipulated. It's literally like larger things are happening in the world that are changing how this stuff is being reported. And so that's first and foremost. Like if you're a contractor out there and you're getting blamed for not being able to like have the best numbers, you need to educate your brand a bit more. And then if you're a brand, like, don't be throwing blame around at anybody. This is a young media buyer has no pull against Facebook, one of the biggest corporations in the world. Like, we're all just sitting, and then also Apple making some crazy changes too. But back to your question, funny enough, a lot of our brands have like doubled down on their spends there, and they're just keep going with it, because if the strategy was working back when we could get the data, why wouldn't the strategy still work now when the only thing that's missing is like that true return on ad spend thing, but all the other numbers you can still pull?
Yeah. Okay. I think we're seeing a move towards more, performance indicators that look, the search for the ultimate source of truth is, it's getting harder and harder, right? Because we're never going to be able to now tie view through conversion data with last click conversion data from different platforms and make it all make sense within Shopify. So I think we're seeing more people kind of bypass the attribution conversation and start to look at their funnels and what goals they have at each stage of the funnel, and if I up the dial here, then actually my overall performance increases.
Yeah, there's a lot of other KPIs you can look at now, and it was a lot cleaner when we could do actual like return on ad spend and chop those numbers up and like take a look at things, but now it's just it is what it is. Every advertising channel ever always matures, and there's always new changes to it, and things get kind of thrown at you, and you have to evolve, and that's what we're doing.
Yep, definitely. So continuing in that vein of this, past 18-month, adventure that we've all been on, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've helped D2C clients overcome during the pandemic?
Ooh. Well, biggest challenges are honestly keeping them calm. Gosh, those were a lot of fun conversations at the beginning of everything. A lot of the clients that we still work with to this day, we were doing some big projects, right? When everything kind was unknown, and they all doubled down in e-commerce, and they'll all tell you that it was the best decision they made. And without it, they wouldn't be anywhere near where they are now. So a lot of investments in kind of user experience, making sure that their sites are highly performant and optimized, especially for mobile. That's one thing that we've been doing a lot of help with our clients. Another thing is a full funnel kind of view. We've definitely become a better partner for our clients, and kind of at this point in what we're evolving into being is we're trying to almost be the technical and like just kind of the technical partner for all of those elements of the brand, and have the brand focus on product and on customer and community building, and we focus on the technical stuff and the advertising stuff, and kind of plug and play where we see fit within their business organization structure, and just really everyone's goal is kind of let's increase all those KPIs that we all want to increase together. So definitely built some really cool partnerships there. And through that, well, they've told us what they want us to do. So we're adding some more service offerings in the new year that definitely kind of go in line with being that growth partner and like helping them get to the next level. But I mean, like in plain English, we've been building a lot of really sweet websites and marketing the crap out of them.
You mentioned, Chase, earlier there about the Klaviyo Shopify kind of alignment. We see lots of whether it's Klaviyo or MailChimp or whatever the CRM solution is, the Klaviyo Facebook and or Google alignment. So are you seeing more trends for this holistic approach towards the customer, like a 360-degree kind of wherever they are, whatever platform they're on, whatever contact details we have, let's try and speak to them consistently? Are you seeing that as a significant trend?
Well, it was definitely like what the internet was saying when iOS 14 came out. Everyone's like, let's focus on owned marketing or retention marketing, whatever you want to call it. It was basically like, let's focus on email and SMS. That's what they were saying. And now there's a giant update coming that will just sabotage those metrics, or it's already out. I don't remember. Which is going to make things yet again more interesting. So they're getting rid of cookies, and they're getting rid of being able to tell if a customer's opened an email. There's a lot of crazy changes in response to privacy concerns, which is perfectly fine. But as an advertiser, your job is extremely hard. So where I see things going is there's going to be a very, very big focus for a lot of these brands on community building, on content creation, and on keeping the conversation going with their existing customers or people that are interested in the brand, to try to just keep them in the loop. So that's going to be a huge focus. And I can already tell you, like, the brands that have like a content machine kind of built within their business, and they're always producing content, and it's interesting stuff, and and it resonates with their audience. Like those brands are already winning, and just doubling down on what's working is the right way to grow. I believe brands that were not really running with a strategy, but just like really just all in on paid acquisition as the be all end all growth channel, are probably repositioning themselves and now probably a little late in the game, like figuring out this whole content angle and community building, which honestly, if you're a younger brand, like get that built and figured out now, and you will love yourself for it in the future.
So community building and content creation is really great, but it does take kind of a long time to build that up. Are there any tactics that you would maybe suggest, especially like for Shopify specific, ahead of the holiday season, so things people could get, ramped up in the next month or so to really succeed this holiday season?
Yeah. You should already know what you're doing this holiday season. And I'm not even kidding. Like all of our clients, we are already planning for Q4 marketing. We call it like our holiday success package. And it's like, we're already going. We got a bunch of strategy out of the way for all of our clients. Like we know the offers already. We know exactly what they're going to do. We know exactly what we need to be scheduling out through, a lot of our clients are on Plus. So kind of getting Shopify Flow all set up and getting the themes to update on the right time. Like all that stuff's already happening now. And they're out there creating the content to go hand in hand with these sales. We're not trying to go into, anywhere near when things really kick off, which is kind of like Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend. Like, we're not trying to go anywhere near there without having everything already done. You know what I mean? We are, if you're headed into like that time at the 11th hour trying to make giant changes to your website, you're going to have a bad time. B, your offer, if you haven't got that figured out, you're going to have a bad time. Like, all this needs to be solved now and done. And then the unfortunate thing is a lot of people are probably currently still experiencing issues with kind of like shipping and actually getting their products. Like, that's a huge issue that we were seeing for a lot of like clients and prospects. Luckily, our clients have kind of figured out what they're going to do for this holiday season. But yeah, honestly, I don't know when this is going to come out, but you should get your offer figured out and get like that sale locked and loaded, and it should be done, and then start working on producing the content to accompany that sale. It should be a high priority, because it's probably going to be where you make a third to half of your money this year, is kind of during that one quarter.
When do you start that conversation, Chase? When do you suggest people start? Are you kind of midsummer?
Yeah, we start talking to basically when we're getting like up on 100 days to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we start like not annoying our clients, but saying, hey, yeah, it's here. We got to start talking about this. And they're like, oh my gosh, really? Because no one's thinking about it until it's like, looming on the horizon. So we just have like a reminder set inside of our project management software that's like, it's that time again. And we're like, cool. And we just kind of reach out to everybody and be like, who's on board to do all this fun stuff this year?
Awesome. So start planning around Labor Day at the latest.
Yeah. And then it just, as far as like, in hand with that, you don't want to launch any crazy changes to your website in November, period. Like not even October, I'd say, because you could have some detrimental impact. Like if there's some QA stuff that wasn't seen, or if there's some big SEO ramifications, like that's not the time to do major updates to your website. You can do, small changes here and there, but, oftentimes around that 100-day mark, we see a big influx of people trying to reach out to do big projects. And like the first conversation we say is like, this will not be live by Black Friday or Cyber Monday. This will be live in Q1. And here's a million reasons why. And then again, it's back to, you just got to educate people, let them know.
Awesome. Great. Well, this has all been like super interesting stuff. But we are out of time. So we'd like to end on our final question that we like to ask all of our guests. And that is, if our listeners come away from this episode with just one thing that they can implement today to help accelerate their online businesses, what is that one thing?
Ooh. Well, it's funny. So I've talked about this a few times on recent podcasts, and maybe it's just because it's top of mind. But you should have kind of like a operating system to run your business, actually. So I'm a huge fan of Traction and the EOS framework by Gino Wickman. Give that a read and then kind of make it work for you. That probably changed my agency. Our agency means like once we kind of figured that out, like the rest was history, and like we had a real business. I think before that we were just glorified freelancers. Understanding when things are actually issues, how to actually plan appropriately, how to make true business decisions for your kind of North Stars are things that some people don't realize they need help with until they kind of understand the impact it can have.
Awesome. Great tip. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Chase. Thanks again for joining us, Brendan. It's been a pleasure to have you both on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We learned some amazing actionable tips from Chase on how to make the most of Shopify and how best to structure your ads. So if you'd like to connect with him and the Electric Eye team, go to electriceye.io or follow Chase Clymer on LinkedIn. Make sure to have a listen to his podcast, Honest E-commerce, to hear from tons of great guests and even more best practices. And speaking of Shopify, Optily is proud to be an official partner. You can use the amazing features they have to offer to make your website shine while using Optily to optimize your ads and increase the number of people who get to see your awesome products. Try out our solution for free for 2 weeks at optily.com. On our next episode, we'll have Robert Rand on the show. Robert is also the host of another e-commerce podcast, the JetRails podcast, and is the director of partnerships and alliances at JetRails, an e-commerce hosting partner specializing in Magento. We'll be diving into what this robust platform has to offer with him in 2 weeks, so make sure to tune in. Stay safe, and we'll catch you back here next time on Optily Radio.